This is a talk to me first. We're going to get a repeat of a person, not from a part one, part two in the same day, but Dr. Sarah. We had a conversation with her last week. She called me up and said, hey, I think that there was more left to this conversation. And boy, am I glad that we really got to some deeper matters in this conversation. So you get the pleasure of hearing from her again. Join me, talk to me with Dr. Sarah.
We're back because you called me and was like, hey, I think there's more to be said in this conversation. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. And after hearing from you, I'm like, okay, definitely, let's do this again. And so you're the first to do this, so I'm excited about that. But I want you to tell the people, I guess, what was going on in your mind. Why are we back here to talk some more about this conversation?
Well, I felt like the first conversation we had, it was good, but we didn't necessarily go deep enough, right? So being a woman who is single and, looking to be married, it's not just about looking for or being found by somebody. Mm-hmm. There's also motherhood attached to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole motherhood issue, especially given age, the more you go up in age, that gets super, super complicated.
Yeah.
More so than just I'm hoping and waiting. Right now, there's the question of, do I now have to act on this as well? Do I have to put works behind this faith as well?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I kind of felt like I wanted that to be represented in the conversation as well, because that's a huge deal. And you know what? It's not just a huge deal for single women. It's a huge deal for women, those who are single and looking, single and not looking, married, it's motherhood is a huge topic.
Yeah.
Being women, so.
I feel like I have a lot to ask, I would say, because hello, I'm not an expert on this subject matter.
Right.
But I think the question that I have, and I don't know if you even have to answer this question, but it almost feels like this is a contemporary issue. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm trying to, in my mind, figure out how did this become an issue for this day as opposed to 100 years ago? What's the difference now?
That is such a good question, but I don't think it's really a difference.
Okay.
Now we have the technology to kind of make things happen. Mm-hmm. Back then, people had Hagars.
That's what it is. Oh, true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think we have the technology to kind of concoct things, but people were going through struggling, and I don't want to call it going through the back door, but figuring out this is not happening for me and my body right now, so let me figure out how it can happen later on. So the cure is contemporary, the cause is not.
Okay, but I have a thought that I'm gonna toss out there. I wonder also how much, because our first topic was about being successfully single, and we were really talking about this success in career and things of that sort.
Yeah.
I wonder how much that has factored into this issue as well, right? Because really the goal 100 years ago was get married early,
right?
Have children, raise a family. That was the goal. So, I think if we're really looking at this fully, I think the women going into careers, getting careers and education and all that kind of stuff, which is amazing. There's another side of that that's but that also delays some things for people.
Yes. No, you're right about that. It delays things. And then also, I think it also, it gives the freedom to not have to wait for marriage. Do you know what I'm saying?
True.
Because, and I guess want to give a disclaimer. Everything I'm talking about is for me, right? My personal values, beliefs, whatever. Yeah. Just putting that out there. But now there's, with success, you don't necessarily have to wait to have a family before having a family, right? Or you don't have to wait to have to get married before having a family, because
that means to do
there you go, you go, right? So there's, I think, for the successful woman, and success is relative. Mm-hmm. I want to say that also, but for the successful woman, there is kind of the question of do I have to wait? Do I have to do things in this order? you know, what would be the benefit of waiting versus the risk, right? Because like you said, I've had many conversations with people about family planning and stuff like that. And it's like, well, could you deal with having a kid on your own? And I'm kind of like, I could. Not could I deal with it. I would be okay if I had to.
Yeah.
That's not what I want.
Right.
Right. But like, what nurse, an au pair, or nanny, or such and such. Like, sure, if we had to do it, we would do it. But that's not my ideal. Right. So the question of finding love, right, and like I said, looking and hoping for motherhood, like it's so much more layered than just like, oh, I want to be married. Because in this day and age, like you said, you actually can do certain things without doing it in the order that we've been told that we need to do it in.
Oh, that opens up so much
dialogue
for us, because really there's a part of it that's like, okay, that makes sense from a financial perspective, that I have the means, we can outsource. Right. We can outsource some of these responsibilities. Right. But you can't outsource fatherhood.
No, you cannot.
Right? And so it makes me question, and I think these are complex questions. I don't think they're black and white. But it makes me question, just because you can, does that leave this child at a deficit?
Yes.
Right? You know, I saw, let me say this. On the way here, I saw this billboard for, I'm not going to name it, but for a hospital. And basically it was a aged woman. She was 57 years old, according to the billboard, and she just gave birth to her child. And it was promoting, like, basically, like, hey, look at the amazing things that we can do. And I was grieved. I was grieved because I thought about the fact that in 18 years, when this kid graduates, this woman will be, somebody do the math for me, she's going to be 75 or so years old. Is that fair to this kid? And so I'm saying all of that to say, I wonder how much of this is, even though you have the means, is it fair, for lack of a better word, to a child?
This is why it's so complex. Right? That's why it's so complex, because, you know, a part of the decision, yes, it's for me, right? Yeah. But it's also for this child, right? So, like, full disclosure, this is something that you and I spoke about before, but I did look into and even started the process of like freezing my eggs, right? And I didn't. It is a super long, or I'll say this, it's a process. Yeah. I stepped in and out of it very quickly because I had so much conflict. I grappled so much with okay, well, this is what I want, but is this good for a child? This is what I think that I need. Is this good for, is this the environment that I want to bring a kid into the world? And like I said, this is no like shade, judgment, condemnation to anyone who raises their family the way they feel that they need to. But for me, para mí, I'll say it in Spanish. For me, there, like I said, there were a lot of questions. For example, like I mentioned it on the our first conversation. My parents have been married for 40 plus years now, right? I have never been in a position where I need to ask certain questions about where this person is or that one is not. You understand what I'm saying? And I've never imagined. I don't know if I know how to be a single mom. Yeah. In financially, sure, right? But I'm talking about what you were speaking to, fatherhood, stepping into that, right? Like, of course, there are villages, absolutely, that can supplement and complement and substitute. But in terms of like my dad, and let me say this, when it comes to like, depending on how you go about it, there's a possibility for you to have a kid and have no clue who is the biological father of this child. Sure. Do I want to have to explain and answer to that and be like, sorry, I just don't know. Yeah. Right? Like that's...
It's complex.
It's complex, and like I said, it works for people.
Yeah.
It is healthy for some people, but I think that you need to know that you can deal with what comes along with the decisions that you make, right?
Yeah. Can I interject? I want to interject
Yeah.
because I think there's a flip side of that, right? Because you can freeze eggs with no prospects at all, or you can freeze eggs because one day a prospect may come along. That's a little different. That's a little different than what you were kind of explaining just now. And I wonder what your perspective is on that, because what if, as you said, age is a factor.
Right.
What if I meet someone 46, 47 years old and now I want to have a kid?
Yeah.
Like, does that change what you were saying about, thank you.
Thanks.
Does that change what you're saying about the idea over here? Yep, thank you. I'm wondering if that changes your perspective in terms of it being a viable option for you. That it's not based on me being a single mother. It's just based on me being a mother later in age.
Right, an old mom with an old baby.
Not the way I thought you was going to say that, but okay, we can go with that.
I thought about that too. So I'm going to say this also. The reason why I kind of stepped out of the situation was because it did not bring me peace. Do you know what I'm saying? It didn't bring me like it didn't bring me the reassurance that it should. When you talk about, when I started the process or looking into freezing my eggs, I went through so many algorithms in my head. I'm like, okay, what if I don't meet somebody at what time? What's the time limit I'm giving myself to meet someone before using the eggs on my own, right? Or am I gonna wait until, like you said, 46, 47, 48,
57?
No, absolutely not, right? I don't know. I just feel like there are so many possibilities, and with all of the possibilities, there are still no guarantees.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I could decide to, go through the process of family planning on my own. I could freeze these eggs, whatever the case may be. But then the actual cycle of in vitro fertilization, there's no guarantee that will work.
Right.
With or without a partner, right? At 46 years old, there's no guarantee that
it's quite expensive.
Listen, I'm not someone who really balks at prices too much. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, cost of living. Yeah. This was like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's the cost of admission is exorbitant. And then once you get your foot in the door, once you pay all that you do to get your foot in the door, it's still we're talking about tens and tens and tens and hundreds. You know what I'm saying? With no guarantee.
Yeah.
So for me, what did make me feel at peace was that I would be very much so content with adopting if I had to, and I would do that with or without a part. You know what I mean? We did speak about this, so I'm going to share it. With adopting, I guess the one downside for me is that, I want to give this to somebody. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
It has to go to somebody, right? But then past that, a woman, so much of being a woman is biology. Do you know what I'm saying? So much of what we go through every single day.
I've never thought about before.
Every single month. You don't have to, right?
Yeah.
But our bodies essentially are going through dress rehearsals month after month after month after month for this main event. And literally throws a temper tantrum when that event doesn't happen. Do you know what I'm saying? And so to go through all of that and not actually perform, so to speak, feels kind of dag. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I do kind of look at that as the only downside, which it is what it is, right? Motherhood I'll say this too, motherhood doesn't just happen by birth, right? There are people who give birth who are not mothers.
Absolutely.
Right? The same way there are people who have never given birth that are 100% absolutely mothers.
For sure.
So, I don't think that it's, I'll say, with being fair and not fair to a kid, I don't think it's necessarily fair to kind of like concoct something to fill a need or a void that I might have.
Sometimes the choice to not have children has been viewed as a selfish choice. I would argue that it's a selfless choice because I think you need to know yourself. I think there are people who have pushed aside their own feelings, their own awareness, self-awareness, to know that children is not something that is for me. It's not something that I want, and I'm really doing it because of the expectation of people and not really what my own desires are. I think it takes a selfless person to say, I'm too selfish to have a child in my life. I hope that everybody really gets that, that I think that I think sometimes we are trying to be who we are not. And there are people who get in the crossfire of you pretending to be who you are not. And I think that to bring children into a situation that you already know, I'm not sure that I really want this for my life, I think that is selfish. And so to anybody who is on the fence about it, take some time, pause, wait on the Lord, and wait on your change. Because to bring somebody else into the world under those conditions can be tragic, it can be scarring, it can be traumatic, and we don't need more children of trauma.
When I hear that, I hear, to me, this is my perspective, a very mature woman making a decision that's bigger than just her. I don't know that everyone thinks of, oh, this is sad. I don't know if everyone thinks of the decision to have children as a decision that's bigger than just them. I think a lot of people have children because they think that it's going to fulfill a void in themselves.
Now listen, this is what I felt like we didn't really speak about last time.
Okay.
Because marriage is the same thing.
Same, absolutely.
Do you know what I'm saying?
100% agree.
So remember we were kind of talking about, well, what do you think single women might be doing, not wrong, but like where do you think the deficit is, I guess, whatever the case is. And, you know, I thought about it and I'm like, single women and married women, we all have our stuff. You know what I'm saying? I just think that some people choose to, remember I was saying I want married people to be honest, right? About the fact that sometimes your marriage does not fix the things that you thought it was going to fix. There you go. You know, like some people get married for financial reasons because they think like, oh, two incomes are better than one, but you still don't save. So you still are broke, right? You think it might fix certain addiction issues. You might think it might like save the relationship, right? Motherhood or family planning is the same exact thing, right? And so one thing that my friends always laugh at me about, because I'm famous for like sitting down for a season so that I can kind of like come back like bam. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so when I decide, 100%, I'll be like, I'm not dating this year. And legit sit out for a full year.
I love that.
Just kind of like making sure that I'm in a good place. One thing I remember working on was my weight, right? Like, so I, at some point, lost 40 pounds. Put 15 back on, but we're not even going to talk about that. But I lost 40 pounds because I felt like I was dating out of my insecurity. I felt like I was insecure about my weight. So it was kind of like dating people who I felt wouldn't. I was dating. Exactly. Yeah. It was like my insecurity was something that I could change. So I was like, I'm going to sit out. I'm going to get rid of this insecurity because thank God it was something that I could, you know, like I said, that I could change. So now I can date out of a place of confidence as opposed to, like I said, insecurity.
Are you open? Are you willing?
Exactly. Motherhood, I look at it as the same thing. So like I've considered freezing my eggs or like going through like, shoot, I'm just going to, you know, show up with this baby kind of thing. But I'm like, are you having a baby because you're ready to like love somebody? Or are you having a baby, or are you looking to have a baby because you're lonely and now you're putting responsibility on this child to be so much more to you than what this child is supposed to be? That is, I don't want to say it's evil, but it's irresponsible. It's irresponsible. You know, that's where we get and like I said, no shade to anybody, but when we get the whole, my son is my king, that hate it, because your son is not supposed to be your king. Little man is not supposed to be the head of the household.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? If and I'm saying this as a Christian, speaking on a Christian platform, but if there is no man in the household, God is the head of the household, not little man. You understand what I'm saying? And God is the head of the household, whether or not a man is there. But you guys, the saints, know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like, yeah, it's a decision that should not be made out of insecurity, loneliness, getting back at somebody, keeping up with people.
Fear,
feeling.
Fear is a big one.
Fear is a big one. Feeling rushed, feeling pressured, feeling all of that. And I know, like I said, starting the process of freezing my eggs, it was out of all of that. It was like, I'm getting older, I need to da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, these are not the auspices that you want to bring somebody into the world.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be your, like I said, now, like the almost like a pet, like, oh, now I'm not lonely, because I'm not gonna say that's crazy. I understand that, like, yes, children do, I guess, lend a level of companionship, right? Like a little girl, like that's your new best friend. I get it. But if that's like the sole motivating factor, I just know that's not the way I would want to bring anybody into the world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
And they become your world in that case, in that instance. And I know some people who, that's another situation altogether, because you can be married and still have your kids be your entire world.
There you go.
I think that this is my belief, I don't think that it was ever intended for us, for anyone, child, husband, wife, dog, cat, pastor, to be our entire world.
Right.
I think it becomes idolatrous.
Right.
And so sometimes I think you got to pump the brakes, because this is idol worship. This is like actually switched into something completely different. So, so I think what you're saying is like super spot on. And I think it's a struggle that we actually need to talk about.
It's true. You're right. Yeah. And the thing with putting these things on pedestals and making idols out of them, idols are dead, right? So they're not going to fulfill. Never. What it is that you think they will. So like, yeah, I could have a child because it's like, oh, I get lonely, so let me, I'm going to have a child and still be lonely.
Yeah, right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, and this is something that one of my mentors always tells me. She's like, Sarah, marriage is not going to fix this.
Nope.
Having a kid is not going to fix this. Like, these are things that
can make it worse.
Right.
Because when you actually get the thing that you felt like, this is going to set, and it doesn't.
Right. Then it's, right.
Right. That'll drive you insane.
Right. Because you can justify feeling alone when you're physically by yourself. Right. But to feel alone when someone's laying next to you, that does probably hurt a lot more. That probably stings a lot more. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Or feeling isolated because now you have this child. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I don't know. I do know that I'm probably too calculated when it comes to certain things. I've always tried to make like very good decisions for myself, like the best decision. And sometimes it's served me more than it's hurt me. Sometimes it's like, okay, girl, relax. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, I don't know. I've decided that like the same way I had to give my desire for marriage to God, motherhood has to go along with it. Because I'll tell you this, as soon as I decided, like, you know what, I'm going to surrender this, like, marriage is whatever you want me to have, as long as it brings you glory, please, that's what I want. Yeah. And then I was like, let me see who can freeze my eggs for me. Yeah. And I really felt like it was giving sous chef. You know what I'm saying? It was giving sous chef. It was like, okay, I gave this to you, but I'm gonna, you know what I mean? And he just kind of like give it all to me. And like I said, this is for me. There are people and situations where it's appropriate. Do what you have to do, girl. Yeah. But for me, like I said, the decision didn't bring peace. It didn't bring a sense of comfort. It didn't make me feel like, it really did just start another snowball of anxiety and thinking and timetables and, pressure. But
you saying that makes me think, it makes me want to talk about this, because I think specifically now for Christian women, there's there's this extra layer of faith, and how does faith how can you apply faith to this situation? I know people say all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I actually feel bad for you all because everybody has something to say about something, right? So I think what I will say, and I'll let you say your perspective, I think we have to be careful with this idea of if God wants it, it's going to happen. And I'm just going to, believe like faith without works is dead being alone, right? And I think that there's a part of this that's, hey, like you can make a conscious decision that I don't want to be irresponsible and just do things on my own, but also be honest about my desire. It is my desire to be in a marriage. It is my desire to have a child. And now I am going to be open to that and alert, hello. And I don't think that there's anything faithless about that at all. And there are some people who would say faith is you sitting back and not focusing on it. And I disagree with that, but I want your perspective on it.
I agree with you there, right? So me deciding to not go through the process of freezing my eggs, there's a lot of personal things with me that went into that. There was a lot of prayer that went into that, right? But when it comes to having faith, like you said, faith plus works. So if your works might be, okay, I'm going to, like I said, work on certain things with myself to make me more open for that opportunity if and when it comes, or when it comes, then sure, then that is the work that you have to put behind your faith. Other women, it might be, yes, going ahead to freeze your eggs. That might be the work that you put behind your faith. Everybody's work might look different, but it should still be there along with the foundation of your faith. Do you know what I mean? So I would never discourage anybody from Christian or non. Oh, I want to freeze my eggs. Go ahead, let's do it.
You want to do this?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that doesn't speak to not having faith. That doesn't speak to plan B. If you know that's what thus saith the Lord for you, then sure. Then
I want to say this. I have friends recently who had the means to freeze eggs and go through in vitro and all of that. And they just last month had a child. And it's the most amazing and beautiful thing. And I am grateful for them and the process and everything that God has sent. And so for me, I feel like you. Like I feel like you need to be led by God and find out what it is that He desires for your life and make sure that you're in a healthy place, because it could be a great option for someone who it has aligned for. Right. But what's good for you may not be good for me. And I think that's a whole nother conversation. I just feel like there are many situations where I think that we have to allow people to live their lives, right? Because it's not black and white. Right. It is not written in Luke, right? It's not written in the book. There's some things that we've got to really allow people to process through with God and let them be on their journey. Absolutely. And you are on your journey. And honor and respect that process for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like whatever it is that you end up with, right? Whether it's marriage, motherhood, it's yours now. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like it's yours. It's not anyone else's. So the people who might be harassing you or putting pressure on you to have a kid, when that kid comes, they're not going to be helping as much as they were harassing, if that makes any sense. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's now it's now your responsibility to deal with, And, like, we do so much to keep up with people, forgetting that, like, this is your actual life that you have to live, right? And it's scary to think that we're getting married for approval of others. Like, you have to live with him now.
For the rest
of your life, every day. Even if you
separate, because here's the thing, right? Divorce is costly in every way imaginable, right? First of all, spiritually, it's the tearing of one. But there's actually a financial cost to divorce. There's an emotional cost to divorce. And so it's not like, it doesn't work out, you just get out. What? No, it doesn't work like that. This is not my boyfriend or my girlfriend. This is like marriage. And so I think it's crazy, right? I'm a preacher, so it is what it is. I don't think we count up the cost. Right?
It's true.
Of everything. Like we don't fully count up the cost. We think that we know, but we don't really fully process everything that's kind of a part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I want to change a little slightly. I want to ask you a question. Grab it. Eat, child. I want to ask you a separate question. I want to ask you, what do you think? What do you wish married people would stop saying to single people? That's what I want to know. That breath was like, it's a list. There's a list of things.
Because they say a list of things. I wish they would stop saying a lot of things. Where do I start? I mean...
They say that much. Jeez.
No, they do, right? I mean, let's go back to, like, being polite and not asking people personal questions that, like, you don't need the answer to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know. I think I mentioned this last time, but one thing that I keep hearing is like, get out there. You gotta put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't tell me that, because you met your husband at the grocery store.
By accident. Yeah.
By accident.
Yeah.
On a dating site. Like, you doing very regular things, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's like a defined list, but one thing that I notice, especially amongst women get married at like 33 and now they're marriage gurus. And I'm like, you just made it though. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you by the skin of your teeth, sis. You just made it. You know what I'm saying?
And the jury's still out.
And it's still
out.
out.
Want to say it, so I said it for you.
Thank you. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with like, okay, like being excited, so feeling like you might have some information, but let's not act like there's a defined set book of rules to follow. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there's simply not. The same way motherhood is an individual journey, so is marriage, so is dating, so are relationships, right? Like, there's no like, what worked for me will work for you. And if I'm not doing what you might have done, that I'm doing something wrong, or...
Right.
And this is also not to take responsibility off of single people, right? There are rules of engagement. I'll say that, right? But in terms of like, oh, like I said, you got to put yourself out there, or travel more, or you need to start volunteering at a... No.
That's one of them?
Yes. I'm not volunteering somewhere. Like, I mean, I do that.
I'm not volunteering.
I'll say this: I'm not volunteering to catch somebody, to catch something. Because when you give people little things like that, now you're the girl who's showing up at the soup kitchen at 8:00 on Saturday morning with full hair, makeup, stilettos. You look crazy. Yeah. It's giving very thirsty. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but also I think it's very calculated, and I think whatever you catch that way, you've got to keep that way.
Yeah.
And so I think that we don't tell the full picture. Catch is not the...
Right.
That's the beginning.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
Like, then I got to actually keep that
exactly.
up. Who's keeping
exactly.
That up?
Yeah, I think we do put so much emphasis on like the meeting of, but not like you said, the keeping of. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I know that people mean well when they give certain advice and certain whatever, but... Sometimes I do think a lot of the advice is more of a flex. Do you know what I'm saying? Don't do what I did, but you should travel more. Yeah. It's like, this didn't, like, I'm special. Yeah. This didn't work. I didn't have to do this because I'm special, but you need to dust off your passport. Knowing good and well you ain't left Mount Vernon in 6 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? I don't know. I think we are all trying to figure it out. Those of us who are not married and married. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, there's temptation for those of us who are married and not married. I feel like, and I did mention this before, but I do feel like there's this like air of, now that I'm married, I've arrived, or I've got it all figured out. And that's just simply not true. Yeah. We all have our stuff. We all have our flaws. We all have our those places that need to be like fixed and touched by the hand of Jesus. We all have them, married or not, and being
but with married, you have it times 2.
There you go.
Like,
No,
I
really.
think that's the part that we miss, right? And that's not like to say, oh, it's so horrible. Like, marriage is a beautiful thing.
It's beautiful, right?
But everything is multiplied, and that's not just the good stuff. The bad stuff is also multiplied, and I think you didn't ask me but I think that's what married people should be saying is, hey, like, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's amazing if you find the person that is for you. But even when you find the person that is for you, there are some things that come along with that person. Yeah. Like, there are amazing things. And here's the other part. I think the other part of it is there are things that you only learn when you are in covenant with that person. That no matter how long you date them, I didn't get it until we shared everything. We shared a life together. Then suddenly it was like, oh, that thing that I thought was really cute about you,
not so much,
actually bothers me now, right? And you have to work through that because the vow is to work through it. That's what the vow is.
Do you find that's the same for couples who live together before marriage, like trying to simulate marriage? But do you think?
I find it to be the same only because most people who are living together, I have found, are only living together. They're still not doing life together. Got you.
Right,
they still, everything is still separate. Separate accounts, separate this.
Right.
And so we still haven't merged our lives, even though we've merged our apartment. Right. And so I find that a lot of those people are still having struggles later on because we didn't talk about this stuff because we still weren't fully committed.
Right. There's still like a cuteness to it.
There's still a cuteness to it. And so, by the way, I'm just going to say that I do not recommend. That's a whole nother thing. But I'll say it now. I just really do believe it's not my statement. I think it's true. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? I think that's a real thing. Yeah. And I have seen people literally live with people for 13, 14, 15 years and never make a commitment. And some of those people I've seen walk away after 15 years.
That's rough.
You have nothing. You can't go to divorce court because you never were married. So you literally walk out with the towels and sheets that you came in with. You get nothing. And that's like after 15 years, like, I'm leaving with something. I got to get something out of this.
I'm leaving with something. Right.
And so it's a thing, right? And even just like shared benefits, there's a lot of stuff, right? Because like I've had people, because I think especially old school people, I had aunts and uncles that they died and found out they was never married to begin with. They just like,
that's what we do.
Hello, this is weird.
We do that.
But now, if they had insurance, another conversation. We'll do that on another show. But if they had insurance, you have no rights to that. You were here. You cleaned. You cooked. You helped. You served. And you walked away.
You're not even on the obituary.
You are not in the obituary. Like, you are not recognized at all. That's hard. And so, like, I feel like we are, like, it's kind of like you said something. It's not related, but I want to bring it back up about what we do when we don't like value ourselves, like right, or we have some level of insecurity there. Like, I feel like be secure enough to say I deserve more than this.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But see, now this is
come on.
but so now that's the thing with keeping with what you just said, and then what married people tell single people. The whole thing of like, oh, you're being too selective, right? Like, I know that's it for me.
Yeah.
Because I know people really well. Like, I'll meet you, I already know. Yeah. And so there's a level of, okay, are you judging a book by its cover? Are you not giving someone a chance versus just trusting the God in me that's telling me, like, red flag, walk away kind of thing, right? Even when it comes to, like, being picky, is it being picky, or is it being, like, selective to know?
But here's the thing. What if I am a picky person? That's just if that's a personality trait of mine, to deny that is going to cost me later on.
Wow. Okay.
Because now I acted like I wasn't a picky person.
Right.
But I am. And so what that I am. And I think that's, we have to learn to live within reason, unapologetically. If I am a picky person, this is the way that God has made me. This is the way that I've developed this is the person I've developed into.
Yeah.
To deny it on one of the most important decisions of my life will cost me everything later on.
Right.
So I'm gonna own being picky now.
Right.
Because in the end, it's gonna benefit me. And so I think some of this is we need to be able to take a stand and say, yeah, I am.
Yeah, definitely. No, okay. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I wouldn't say I'm picky. I'm very choosy though. I'll say that.
What's the difference?
There's a difference.
Okay, help
picky
me.
Picky to me is like, he has to be 6'4", he has to have this job, he has to have this. That's picky.
Okay.
Choosy is like, I don't want anything that doesn't feel natural or right to me, right? So like if you I don't know, if
I get that.
If there's no compatibility, or if there's a missing compatibility there, like I cannot choose that.
I'm not feeling it.
There you go.
I feel like the list is ancient. It's like it's been around for forever. This list of the qualities or the things that you want in your partner, and I think that there are, I think there's some benefits to that. I think that you should be clear on what it is that you do want. I think you should be clear on what you don't want as well. I think the list always includes what we do want. It doesn't always include what we don't want. I think there's a list for that as well. I think you can't be married to the list though, because number one, there's no perfect human being on the planet. But also, I think that there has to be some level of flexibility to be able to identify when the Lord has sent something my way, someone my way, that doesn't align with my list, but aligns with his purpose. And sometimes we are more concerned about our desires than we are the desire of the Lord. What I know without question is that he sees afar off. The Bible says that he knows our end from our beginning. And so where I'm at in my story right now, I may think that the person on my list is what I need for my ending. I know for sure that God really knows what I need at my end. And so there should be a list so that you're clear, but you should also be clear with the fact that the Lord knows exactly what I need, and I'm open to whoever he sends my way as long as it's him.
I have the right to say, this just isn't for me.
Yeah.
And I don't have to explain why. And one more layer, I don't even have to know why.
Right. Right.
And I think we do this thing where if I can't articulate my reasons for a thing, then it's not valid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to always be able to articulate it. I just know it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's so funny because we think the spirit of discernment and wisdom, and we think those things are packaged just for a church setting. Like, I met you, there was something there that was like, it's a no. I don't need to know more.
Right. Or learn the depth of the no.
I don't need to know that. I can just walk away.
I hear you. And you know what? I think that's, like I said, that's one of the things that I always trip up on.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, it's a no, but okay, let me. And then
and I don't think that's about dating.
I put together something with work where I have to select people.
Mm-hmm.
I found someone where I was like, this is a no.
Mm-hmm.
And put them in red on the bottom of the list. And then revisited it. And when I say it was the worst, the worst decision I made of 2022.
Yep.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the worst decision. And like you said, this had nothing to do with dating. It had nothing to do with my personal life. This was like super professional. But like that wisdom and the discernment was there in that setting for me to use at that time. Legitimately stepped over it. Stepped over the discernment. And when I say I regretted it immensely, it was crazy. And I mean, with dating, it's the same way. I've never met someone and been like, this ain't for me, and been surprised. I mean, clearly because I'm still not married, right? Clearly. But it's always been like, Dag, you knew that.
I knew it. And I wasted my time.
Definitely. That's why I don't know the last time I felt like heartbroken. Because
I love that.
When you're forewarned,
because he preserves me. He saves me.
There you go. So he already told me from the beginning where this was going. Just because I ignored it doesn't mean that like he was wrong or mistaken, right? It was kind of like, girl, I told you this. So usually when things don't go well, it's more so, like I said, I'm not like heartbroken. I'm more so like, you played yourself. You know what I'm saying? You played yourself again. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
I have the liberty. I get the opportunity to counsel many people, and I can't tell you the amount of people who have sat across from me and said, man, I knew.
Yeah.
But I kept going. They wouldn't be sitting on my couch.
I know. But I don't know.
If you'd have listened to that initial no.
But what is that though? Like just...
I think it's two things. One, I think we mislabel things, so we call that judgment when it's really discernment.
Okay.
Not the same thing. So we're like, I don't want to feel like I prejudged the person.
Yeah.
You know, so there's that. But I think the other part is desperation.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think we want a thing so bad that we try to will it to be what it's not.
Yes.
That's not what it is.
I know. Ugh.
You know, and what it does is it causes so much heartache in the end. And again, I want to be clear, like, to you and to anybody listening, like, that's not just a dating situation.
Yeah.
Like, I've walked into jobs and knew, like, oh, it's not good in this place, and took it anyway.
Right.
And then a month later, I'm like, Jesus, why did I do this? Because you didn't listen. I told you that they were like that. I showed you them. But you wanted it so bad. You were so desperate for a job and didn't want to trust me for your finances that you accepted something that didn't belong to you. Now deal with it.
Such a horrible place to be.
It's literally a horrible place. It's a horrible place to be.
No, it is.
But I think what's worse is when we keep making that mistake over and over again.
Listen.
Like, how many times is it in your face and then you still make the wrong decision and you go do it again? Like, at some point it's like, okay, no, I'm going to trust it the first time. You going through over there.
I am. But it's because this, like, honestly, like, that's where I find myself all the time. Yeah. And that's particularly with dating. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like I'll let something go that's not for me very quickly. I'm like, oh no. But I need to have that at the front end.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like at the, oh no. You know what I mean?
But I think I'm going to add to I had two before. I'm going to add to my third reason. I think it's because people make us feel bad.
That's true too.
Because people make you feel bad about, as you said earlier, like, being picky or choosy. People make us feel bad about that. And so because of that, now it's like, all right, maybe I should go against what instinctively or spiritually I know. Yeah. And now I'm going to go against it because you told me that I should. No, you don't know. You don't know. You're probably miserable. But anyway. Right? And so I'm actually going to yield to what I believe the Holy Spirit is telling me, and I don't need to know the why.
That's it.
Period.
Yeah, that's it.
So anyway. Any last thoughts that you want to leave the people with about this or anything else? Like, it's my show. Say anything you want to say.
Listen, your girl is trying. I don't know. I want to encourage the single ladies out there, and not just single women, but women in general, right? Yeah. Because so much of what we have to do it involves waiting. We're waiting to be asked out. We're waiting to be, given a title. We're waiting to be asked to marry. We're waiting to get pregnant, and
you wait to exhale.
We're waiting to exhale. Yes, we wait for so many. We are always waiting. So much of being a woman is waiting. But I guess I want to encourage those of us who are waiting for whatever it is to try to wait well, to try to wait contently. I know it's super hard. I know people who are watching this are like, but I'm trying. It's hard, but I believe that the wait is worth it. Super cliche. I haven't seen it yet. I believe I will though. So yeah.
I think you've seen it in other ways.
That's true. That's true. It's true.
Not this specific area, but I'm sure that you've seen it in other ways. I want to just piggyback off of that. I believe that I'm so blessed to be able to see people live their lives. Like I see people live their lives. Yeah. And so I've seen the benefit in waiting. Like, I've seen that it's not just something that's written. It's not just a story or something that we tell people just to make them feel better about not having something. But I've seen the benefits. I've seen people yield to the wait and then finally get to a place of contentment. And God is like, Okay, now.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen, and I'm not going to say that that's everybody's testimony. It's always going to work out that way.
Right.
But I've never seen it work out in a way that was like, you should have gave up that way a long time ago. I've never, like, what? This is what I waited for? I've never seen it played out that way. So that's my encouragement to people.
Okay.
It's worth the wait.
All right.
Whatever it is, it's worth the wait.
Awesome.
Appreciate you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me again. I finessed another meal.
I know, but maybe you'll eat the next time.
Maybe.
Thanks for watching this episode of Talk to Me, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a single thing, and we will catch you at the next talk.